The ball. So brief backstory. I'm a preacher, big reason I'm struggling, and have a wife who cheated on me 6 years ago. Things have been pretty good and reconciliation has gone very well. Yes, I still have my moments, but they are few and far between. That is until now. So now there is a woman in the church who texts me 2 weeks ago and tells me that she needs to talk to my wife, and I immediately. So, we drop everything and go meet with her where she tells us that her husband had just admitted to an affair. I saw red and couldn't think straight. I actually left the room for a few minutes hoping that my wife would finally tell someone about her own affair. She didn't. She wanted to try to save her marriage, and so I have given her a copy of the rules of reconciliation from on here, which I changed to suit her situation. She read them and gave them to him with the understanding that if he doesn't follow them to a T, he's gone. He also wasn't allowed in their bed, although I found out that this has now changed. This affair had been going on under her nose for 5 years. Now the horrible part. Through all of this, the pain and memories of my wife's affair have all come flashing back. And to make things worse, I am now finding myself very attracted to this woman. I know that I have to guard myself and not allow these feelings to grow, but it's hard to get her out of my mind. Her husband is a jerk and I frankly almost want to see him fall on his face. I know that helping her save her marriage is the right thing to do. I just need help to get rid of these feelings. My attraction to her combined with the returning resentment for my wife's affair is driving me insane. I told her that I had wondered if maybe she would have said something to her about her affair, and she just looked at me and said that she didn't want to take a chance of having our kids find out. And I haven't told her about the memories coming back. I've known her for a few years and she has been a friend ours. I realized that those feelings were sympathy and that was it. I told my wife how I felt and she seemed to understand and is in the process of reading how to help your spouse heal from your affair. Was her affair rug swept? I think where my wife struggles is that in her mind, she has repented and God has forgiven her and therefore does not remember her sin of infidelity. While it's true when God forgives sin, he no longer remembers it. With us humans, it doesn't quite work that way, especially in affairs. So, this has been a good thing in having to revisit some of these things. Has she been perfect? No. Has our marriage been good over the past 5 years? Absolutely. That first year post-affair was rough, but it has steadily gotten better. There have been a few road bumps, and there probably always will. She has done her part in ending the affair with zero contact, except once where he walked up to her to say hi and she called me immediately to let me know what had happened. And I have 24/7 access to all of her electronics and know her passwords. She calls or texts me on her lunch break daily and also when she gets off of work. We all have trackers on our phones and I have VAR her on occasion when I've had to be out of town. She has proven herself trustworthy without her knowledge. But I came here genuinely looking for help and have received that for the most part. However, this will be my last post on this thread because what I did not come here for was to be abused and called names. Going through an affair as the BS was tough enough. I do not need the people who are supposed to be there for support to slam on me too. You people want to pass judgment on me yet have little to no knowledge of the facts. Maybe just don't post if you don't have anything helpful to say. I'm a big boy and can handle the truth. And believe me, some of you told me exactly what I needed to hear regarding myself and this lady who we are trying to help. She is seeing a professional counselor now and I have put my focus to supporting her from a distance and trying to help her husband with his relationship with God. It's my belief that if he can get that on the right path, the rest should fall in line, or at least be a bit easier to get in line. Comment. Here's my smell test. Let's say I come to you because I'm a member of your church and I'm needing guidance with a trial I'm in. And the reason I would be coming to you at all is because I am a believer and I'm wanting to bring the Lord into the situation and thus I'm relying on you as someone who studied the Word and is well versed in doctrine for guidance. And after coming to you, you have no answer for me and point me to the internet for guidance instead. OP, this is exactly what you did in your situation. I would be walking away shaking my head wondering if I was in the right church if you couldn't at least share what God had to say about my situation. To share some specific scriptures as well. I certainly understand it's a process as is any profession, and the longer you're in it the more versed and experience you'd gain. With all that said, for you to hit the panic button in your trial and run to the internet for advice, I hope that you can see why I have concerns for you as a preacher who's supposed to know God's Word. I mean, this is how Christ speaks to us, through His Word, and just as an accountant is supposed to know balance sheets and number, a preacher should not just know Bible doctrine but he should also have faith in the Lord's Word and to be able to stand on His Word. If you can't do this moving forward, please pray and ask the Holy Spirit on guidance on whether or not you are qualified to be a representative of Christ. Remember, having known the Word and being a preacher, Christ holds these people way more accountable than the sheep. OP updates, 2 years later. Before I even write this, I know that I'm an idiot. But here goes anyway. 7 years ago was D-Day for my wife and me. She had an affair and I had caught her in a big lie and she ended up confessing it to me. We decided to reconcile and have actually had a better marriage than we ever did before. But I still have movies and flashbacks of everything and it still hurts. Then, about 2 years ago, a friend of ours came to us and told us that her husband had been having an affair for the past 5 to 6 years. She wanted to keep her family together, so she was wanting to reconcile. So, we decided to help them. In this time, my wife never said anything to this woman, but I started having very strong feelings for her because we had both been cheated on. It didn't hurt any that she is very attractive. Of course, this brought back the memories of my wife's affair, and the movies increased again. I thought that these things along with my feeling for her would pass, but they haven't. About a year later, she found out that her husband was playing her and was still with his affair partner, so now she is in the process of divorcing him, which, yes, has taken a year and is still not over. Well, my feelings for her have only increased to the point where I can honestly say that I'm in love with her. We have not done anything except funny memes, nothing dirty, back and forth, and we are mildly flirty when together. And I mean very mild. I try very hard to keep my distance. If I go by her house for anything, I make sure to stay on the front porch and talk to her at the door, or if I go inside, I make sure to stand by the door so I can be seen by people outside. We live in a very small, nosy town. The problem is that I think about her all of the time. I can't shake it. I love her. I'm happier when I'm around her. But I love my wife too. But yet it's different. I don't know how to explain it. And my wife has done her part in reconciliation, so there's really nothing I can hold against her there either. I am in misery because I want to be with her so bad it hurts, but yet I know that it's wrong. I don't even know if she would want any part of me. Like I said, I'm an idiot. I just needed to get this off of my chest, I guess. I told my wife about everything. She was actually pretty calm about it all. I gave her my phone and allowed her to read all of my texts. It did bring back a lot of stuff about her affair, but it was really good to come clean. We probably talked about it a total 8 hours over a 3-day time period. Thank you for the kick in the butt that I needed. I knew going in that I wasn't going to get any sympathy from anyone on here. I got exactly what I needed. Today has been pretty hard though. I knew that I had a problem, which is why I came on here with it. But having no contact with her is making me realize how much of a problem I have. It's like I have this void in my heart. I can't imagine how hard this would have been had this gone any farther. I'm glad that it's ending here, but I wish that I would have told my wife about it when these feelings started and nipped it in the bud. But I was arrogant and felt like I had this right to have these feelings and be flirty with this other woman because of what she did. I have admitted to my wife that even though there was no physical contact between us, that what I have been doing is just as bad as what she did. I have also asked my wife to hold me accountable in the same way as she has me holding her accountable. And just for the record, the other woman is in the process of divorce and will be single soon. Not that it makes a difference in what I should do, just that there will not be any couple stuff happening. I came on here because I realized that I had a problem that was getting out of hand and I needed a good kick in the seat of the pants to do what I already knew was the right thing to do. I told my wife. When my wife had slept with and gave X to that pile of garbage 7 years ago, she told me everything. I mean, she still, after 7 years, will text me when she goes to lunch and clocks out for the day so I know when to expect her home. So, excuse me if I feel like I owe it to her to be open and honest right back. I knew that she would be hurt by it, but hiding it and keeping secrets is no way to have a good marriage. So, for you who want to slam me for being honest with my wife, you can take a long walk off of a short dock. I am now on day 3 of not texting her, although she just texted me as I typed this. Something legit that I told her I would do for some kids, and she's touching base about it, and I'm going through some major withdrawal. It was extremely hard seeing her at church yesterday, but I barely said 5 words to her, which was also very hard. My wife's affair drains a lot in me, and this other woman revived a lot of those things. I don't know how to explain it, but it just did. But seeing the hurt in my wife's eyes made me want to make her feel like this other woman makes me feel, and I want my wife to make me feel like that too. It's going to be a long, hard road, but for the first time in a long time, I think that my wife and I are both on the same page and are ready to tackle this thing together. My comment: what you want to feel from your wife isn't possible if she can't do it. It doesn't matter how much you want to feel those things from your wife. She cheated, and you have been trying for 7 years to get those feelings back. Not going to happen. I agree that your wife needed to know how you felt about the other woman. You are right about honesty in a relationship. So, take an honest look at yourself and answer this question. Can you feel for your wife what you feel for the other woman? This isn't a want to, it's a can you. Then after 7 years, why haven't you already? As far as whether or not she has the same feeling for me goes, I don't know. She knows that I am very careful around other women, as is she around other men. She has mentioned to me once after she called a kid she knows a cutesy name, and I said hi that I should be careful because we don't want any rumors going around about us. We live in a very small town, so being careful about such things is a pretty natural thing living around here. In our texting, she has on a few occasions sent a pic that contains love or something along those lines. She recently sent me one of those digital touch things on iPhones with kissing lips. She immediately sent another text saying that a toddler that she was watching grabbed a hold of her phone and sent that. She also has a habit of touching my upper arm, shoulder, and sometimes will rub it. When she walks by me, she will most of the time walk as close as she can without actually touching me. She laughs at most of my jokes, but it is very possible that I am misinterpreting all of this because of what happened with my wife. Like I told my wife, I don't think that I actually want to know. Either way would not be good for me mentally. He was some trailer trash pile of garbage that she worked with. He turned out to be a predator who gets off on destroying marriages. His mo is to befriend a married or attached woman with kids, and then he eventually uses anything he can to convince the woman that her husband, SO, is horrible and will never change because that's the way his dad was, and he ended up leaving. He finally wears them down, has slept with them, and ultimately gets her to break up with her husband, so then takes his place as her man and kids' daddy. He then gets them all to fall in love with him, and then one day they come home and he's gone with no explanation, leaving them all crushed like he was when he was a kid. I know this because I knew something was going on but couldn't prove it, so I relentlessly investigated him. I ended up finding a former victim, the now ex-husband of his, and this guy called his ex-wife and told her about it. I used a fake name and only used my wife's guy's real name and said that he was sleeping with my wife. Well, he called his ex, she called him. He confronted my wife, who in turn called me because he just knew it had to be me who called. I calmly said, why would he think it me? I told this ex-husband guy that this guy was sleeping with my wife. But you have maintained that there has never been any physical contact between you. Well, it wasn't but a couple of weeks and she confessed the whole thing, and that coward moved to another town and did it to another woman. Only he got all the way to breaking up the marriage and moving in with her and her kids, and ultimately left them high and dry. I tried to warn her, but she called me a few choice names and told me to leave her alone. After it happened, she got a hold of me and asked me how I knew, so I told her. He then moved to another state where he has done this to 3 to 4 other women and has changed towns about that many times. I had to stop following his activities a few years back for my own sanity, but I will do a search for him every now and then to make sure that he is still 3 states away. We have since moved to another state as well. Not trying to take any blame from my wife, but this guy lives in a fantasy world where he sees himself as the hero of some fantasy book that he gets these women to read. My wife read them all, and then uses things out of the books to manipulate them. None of it even seems possible, but it happened. Then he'll use the fact that he's in the Army Reserves to make them think that he's some hero, and he will also go to the just went through a bad breakup with my girlfriend that never existed. My wife went shopping with her friend a few days ago and came home and told me how hard it was to look at her, knowing my feelings for her and the possibility of her having those same feelings for me. It was so hard to keep my mouth shut. I so bad wanted to tell her about the amount of self-control that it took for me to not break every bone in his body, knowing that he had his penis inside of her as well as in her mouth. I used to have a recurring daydream of them getting in a wreck while she was giving him X and her biting it off. Earlier this evening I told her about the wreck and biting it off part, as well as the part of how she told me how hard it was to shop with her friend, and how that she should think about how I felt seeing his smug face knowing what he did and not breaking him in half. I always have wondered if he was scared of me, because as soon as I caught them in that lie, he took off for another town pretty quick. I also told her that I've always wondered what would have happened had I threatened him before anything physical happened. I never did, because I felt that I would have pushed her farther away than she was. She told me that she doesn't know how she would have reacted, but that she would have gotten over it eventually. But I'm guessing that there would have been someone else down the road. I don't know the answer. I just don't want to feel like this anymore, and people are correct that getting this stuff out is helping. And now I'm on day 5 and the withdrawal of not texting the other woman comes and goes, but then I wonder why she doesn't text me at all. Maybe she really doesn't like me more than just a friend. But then I go to, why does she touch me like she does and always get really close to me when she walks by me? And why does she laugh at all of my jokes, even the ones that aren't that funny? But then I think that it doesn't matter because I'm married, so end of story. But it's like my brain won't shut off until I get an answer. I don't know. This affair stuff just plain sucks. Another weird thing that has been a nightly occurrence has been that I've been dreaming about her. I've not ever had one single dream that included her, and now it's been every night for the past 3 to 4 days. It's been a fierce battle of my mind and heart, and I know that it's not over yet. My wife and I had another pretty good conversation today. She admitted that the hurt she feels about my feelings for her friend are nothing compared to how I must have felt when she had her affair. She also told me how much better our marriage has been this past couple of weeks since I came clean about my feelings. Maybe I'm not writing this clear enough. It's hard writing with clarity because I always seem to leave something out. I didn't build that narrative. He legitimately does those things. And she has admitted to me in a recent conversation, because all of her affair has come back to the surface, and we have been dealing with it again, that she wanted to hurt me and she just lost her head. But when she actually went through with it, she was sickened by the fact that she would do those things. Her story hasn't changed in 7 years, which tells me that it's the truth. She even typed up the whole thing again. She did this back when it happened too, and it was maybe a bit more detailed than I remembered the first one being, but it was the same chain of events. So, is my wife innocent? A resounding no, and she admits and owns this fact. Her a serial family destroyer, and she fell for it because she was looking for someone who made her feel like she was being paid attention to, but again, she takes responsibility for her actions. My wife's friend was actually over at our house this morning. My wife was there the entire time, and she told me how well I handled myself. I'm realizing from a lot of you guys that I have been the white knight and have taken protecting her too far to where I have developed feelings for her. She has been our family friend for 6 years and I know her very well. She is an amazing woman. She has also told me that I am one of the only men that she trusts. So, this made it very easy to allow myself to develop these feelings. That is also a driver behind me wanting to nip this issue quickly. I cannot betray her trust and, like someone stated, become like our spouse's affair partners. My wife is also an amazing woman, but she betrayed me and I need to get past that. I actually think in a strange way that me developing these feelings for her friend has shown me that anyone can stumble into an affair. I found myself in an emotional affair and I think that because of my wife's paw, I could see where I was headed. One hug while we were alone could have led to a kiss and then into the bedroom and destroyed so many lives and good things. I'm thankful for all of you ... even the jerks. You have not only helped me, but my wife and our marriage as well. So much dialogue that never would have happened and would have just stayed stewing inside of me has come out in a very honest, healthy way. The woman, she works out of her home and is very busy with her kids' activities and spends a good deal of time with family. I haven't texted her outside of a legitimate text regarding something I was doing for some kids that she's also involved in a week. She actually hasn't texted me either. I honestly don't think that either one of us will even mention it. She is very hurt right now from her husband's long-term affair and then her trying to repair the marriage for over a year before finding out that her husband lied and was still in a full-blown affair, so she kicked him out and filed for divorce. I have been there supporting her, along with my wife, through the entire thing. Yes, she treats me different than I see her treating other men, but I have also been doing things for her that I probably shouldn't have been doing, like scooping her driveway, buying her ice cream when she has a hard day, texting her funny memes, being there to listen to her, etc. So, I agree that if I left my wife and went after her, even if she was interested in me too, eventually the fog would lift and things would probably go bad and I would regret it. I told my wife because I want my current marriage to work. We have over 20 years invested in this thing. I have been in the wrong and am trying to do right. So is my wife. Her friend is trying to heal as I am, and my protection instinct and compassion has clouded my judgment, and that's probably not a strong enough way to put it. I knew I was down a bad path and needed help. As far as what she is goes, I really think that she is lost and doesn't know which way is up and is trying to find her way after being cheated on. As far as her in-laws go, they're going to choose their relative over an ex-in-law. But you also may very well be correct. Only time will tell. She is owning everything and has figured out what heavy lifting is and is doing it. Ties have not been severed due to the complexity of the relationship with this woman. However, I have been completely open and honest with my wife regarding my feelings towards this and also, she had stopped texting me and then I also stopped texting her. She recently started texting again, except it now in a group text with my wife. So now anything I say to her, if she says to me, also goes to my wife. My wife thinks that the has come to terms that her feelings for me are completely inappropriate, but she still wants me in her life, so this is how she's moving forward. So, we can still text, but it's out in the open to my wife to control it from going anywhere inappropriate. Also, for clarity, this and I have never shared our feelings for each other. My wife is the one who thinks this has feelings for me based on how she acts around me and talks about me when she is around my wife. Couple months later. This past week I had a woman, yes, her, shook my hand and then brought her left hand up and put it on the back of my hand that she was shaking. My wife was just a bit upset about it because she has never seen her do this while shaking anyone else's hand. We tried to look it up to see what it means but couldn't really find anything. It's a dominance thing when two guys are shaking hands, but when a woman does it to a man, what does that mean? As she was leaving church, she has shaken the hands of many people but hasn't done that according to my wife. I have shaken her hand many times and she hadn't ever done that to me either, until then. A year later. It has been 9 long years since D-Day and my wife still can't understand why I don't trust her. She wonders why I ask her if she has been with anyone else when she's away from home overnight, or fails to tell me when she goes to lunch and when she's off work, or when it takes her a bit too long to get home. I remind her that it only takes a few minutes for her to give a guy a BJ, to which she gets mad about. She also doesn't understand why after all of these years I still don't buy it when she uses the same language she used back then. For example, I will see a guy at her work being nice to her. I know, shouldn't be a big deal, so I will ask her about him and she will say that's gross. Well, the problem is that she said that identical thing about her AP back 9 years ago and she was sucking him off and spreading her legs for him. She refuses to divorce me. She'd probably be better off financially because she refuses promotions because they will strain our marriage, and I really don't want to go through a divorce, nor do I want to do that to our kids. We moved to a different state. Our kids do not know about her affair, that we know of anyway, which is another thing that kind of bothers me because they treat her like she can do no wrong but treat me like typical teenagers treat their dads. But they have no idea what I went through to keep our family together. How many times I've thought about sitting in my car in the garage and starting the engine and just waiting to fall asleep and be gone. They have no idea of the pain and heartache I've been through. Now I will admit that our marriage is better than ever and we have slept together all of the time it seems, but there is still that lack of trust and pain deep within me and in her mind. It's been 9 years. I need to get past it. She has basically said that, not exactly those words, but something along the lines of it was 9 years ago. I'm a different person. I love you and will fight for you in our marriage and will never do anything like that again. She even canceled going on a vacation to Florida with her sisters because of my discomfort with the whole thing. Her sisters would most likely champion an affair or at least conceal it. She has upheld her part probably 90 to 95%. It's just her lack of understanding and the fact that she forgets our rules at times and then acts as if it's no big deal. I'm doing much better. I did tell my wife about my feelings so she knows about it and she asks me about it on a regular basis. It is hard for her since she is probably her closest friend and my wife believes that this lady is in love with me too. So, I never thought about it before, but this could be why I have the perception that she doesn't understand. But yet this has been happening since before I even met this other lady. But yes, I still do have feelings for her. They aren't as strong, although I have my days, usually when I'm triggered about my wife affair, but they are becoming less. She had to go 2 hours away earlier this week and her company offered her a hotel room. She decided to get up at 3:30 in the morning and drive down there and then back that evening instead of making me uncomfortable with her that far away in a hotel with other people from her company from other areas of the country staying in the same hotel. He lives halfway across the country now. I keep tabs on the pile of trash. He has not been with her company for 6 to 7 years now and had already transferred to another city before she confessed the affair to me. I have tried to ex me. My wife actually one time came out to the garage to see what I was doing. I have told her many times that I wish she would have come out there 5 minutes later. But when it comes down to it, the thought always comes to my mind, why should I be the one who has to ex? Then a while back, I read an article that talked about how people who commit ex don't really want to. They just want to remove something inside of them and don't know how. I don't want to, but I really want this pain to end. A couple of weeks ago I told my wife how miserable I am being with her because of that pain. The look on her face was awful, like she finally got it. I don't know why or how, but for some reason it helped me a lot to get that out there. And there was a lot more to that conversation, 3+ hours that night, but she has been different, in a good way. Like she's more understanding of my lack of trust and why, and also my triggers and how she causes them. So maybe we've turned a corner. I hope. My comment. He clearly would like to stay married, but again, he'll be told he's deceiving himself. His wife is acting like she always should have, but all he hears, at the end of the day, is that he needs to get over it. Which everyone assumes is a sign of lack of remorse. And it may be. Or it may be that she just doesn't know how to reach him. She's speaking a different language, and in her language, she's actually saying, I'm frustrated, I want to do everything I can for you, but one thing I can't do, one thing it seems like you want, is to go back and change the past.